Hey everyone, welcome to the first video of 2022, and I'm currently working on a proper episode for y'all, but in between doing that and also working a full-time job, I've just been burnt out a lot. So in the meantime, I'm going to be filling with another collection video. And if you haven't noticed from the previous 2 collection videos I've done for this channel, I have a lot of collections. It's insane. A lot of that is mostly because I've accumulated it over time. I started collecting at a very young age. But regardless, anyways, today we're going to be focusing on my Laserdisc collection, which encompasses a big-ass, heavy box. This big damn thing right here. That is absolutely heavy, and yeah, we got a long night ahead of us. So, meanwhile, in the meantime, I'm gonna be sharing a drink with y'all. So, damn, thing's heavy. Anyways, so if you got one, drink it. But, regardless, we're starting off. Anyways, start off with Toy Story, the first Laserdisc I bought, and this easily plays better than the old VHS tape that I have. The picture quality is only just above VHS quality. That's pretty much the standard for most Laserdisc. The picture quality is just above VHS, but it's also above Beta. It was the best you could get at the time, but you probably had to be like Tony Montana to afford a Laserdisc player and a Laserdisc at the same time. But anyways, yeah, this plays pretty well. Not much else to say there. It's Toy Story on Laserdisc. And what else? Guyver 2 on Laserdisc. Dark Hero. I was so lucky to find this at Half Price Books just at random one day. I love this movie, and now I have it on DVD too. I have this on Laserdisc, I have it on VHS, and now DVD. Please, somebody, Shout Factory, anybody, please release a Blu-ray of this. They released the first Guyver movie on Blu-ray, but it sucks. Not the Blu-ray itself, but the movie. And yet they won't release the one that people actually like on Blu-ray yet. I don't know what the deal with that is. Anyways. Yeah, sorry. Anyways, you know, decent picture quality, decent sound quality. Still, like, for both this and the DVD, the picture quality isn't too great, but, I don't know, not much else really to say there. It's of its time, let's say that. Anyways. And here we have probably my second favorite James Bond movie, Goldeneye, on Laserdisc. Now this thing is just spectacular to watch on Laserdisc. I mean, I wish I had an old, surround sound system just to shake my house with, you know, this whole thing, but I don't. Anyways, it's got a gatefold cover here. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the format, I mean, as if the previous 2 that I've shown you haven't said anything, Laserdisc was basically the vinyl of video formats of its day. It was the best in quality, and yeah, had big showy releases like this with gatefolds and shit, just like a lot of old vinyls. Picture quality is great, sound quality is excellent, and for those of you who also don't know, Laserdisc is double-sided, and often, depending on how long the movie is, get in there, depending on how long the movie is, it will come with multiple discs. This came with 2, and each disc is double-sided. God damn. But yeah, Goldeneye, kick-ass Bond movie, one of my favorites, and happy to own it on Laserdisc. Anyways, moving on. Mickey cartoons. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the biggest Disney fan these days anymore, mainly due to, you know, shady business practices and whatnot. But, you know, I still have a soft spot for the company in some measure, and I do like me some classic Mickey cartoons. And I used to have this on VHS as a kid, so it was kind of interesting finding it on Laserdisc. Pretty standard release, double-sided, blah blah. And this is a vinyl that my dad gave me, so moving on with that. And more Disney, Aladdin. Now this is the Special Collector CAV edition. Another fun fact about Laserdisc is that there's two different, I guess you would call it, formats of Laserdisc. There's the standard one, the CLV, which can hold about an hour, maybe 30 minutes. An hour aside for its disc, whereas the CAV edition can only hold 30 minutes per side, but also has a lot of special features involved. Now, I've never tested any kind of special features on this, but okay, it's got the trailer on it. I'm not sure what else it's got, but yeah. Nice Gatefold release there. Nice Gatefold picture. Hey, any Disney conspiracy theorists want to prove whether or not there's any sexual messages in this? Go ahead, I dare you. Anyways. Yeah, Aladdin. Always love this movie. Probably my favorite of the Disney Renaissance, maybe. I mean, there's been a lot, so I can't really say whether or not it is. And of course, the most obvious one, The Lion King. Found this at a Goodwill for about $5. Yeah. The Laserdisc format is usually what I particularly call a big format for big movies. And this certainly is a big movie. As if most of the other movies I haven't shown you already haven't hinted in. These are basically sort of like the blockbuster format, if you will. This is a format made for blockbuster movies. Movies that you would, like, pump up with a big sound system back in the day. And, of course, The Lion King definitely lends itself well to that. Standard release, again, double-sided, decent picture quality. It's hard to tell with animation whether or not, like, the picture quality is truly great or not. For me, at least. At least as opposed to live action. Anyways. One of my favorite movies, and also one of the most controversial movies of all time, Heaven's Gate. Michael Cimino's 3, sometimes 4, it's weird and complicated to explain, Western epic from 1980 that was a massive bomb and was originally considered one of the worst movies of all time for quite a while, and now isn't. In fact, I believe BBC rated it as one of their top 100 American movies of all time recently. Yeah, this is truly a great movie, and it's cool to have it on Laserdisc, because, as again, big movie, big format. Yeah, another Gatefold release there, but it's pretty plain. It's just Chris Christopherson and Isabelle Huppert dancing together and a few other stills from the movie. I mean, there's been a few releases of this movie throughout the years, and most of them weren't exactly good until the Criterion Blu-ray release of it, with a preferred director's cut. Excuse me. And, yeah, the picture quality here is pretty much similar to those, which wasn't great, but still it's cool to have, especially for how cheap I found it. I found it for $5. In fact, I bought a lot of these Laserdiscs at Goodwill. Pulp Fiction, multi-disc, and if it'll open up, there we go. Gatefold, cool little still of the dancing scene from the movie. I know Quentin Tarantino was a huge fan of this format, and Well, yeah, not really sure what else to say there. Quentin Tarantino was a huge fan and advocate for the Laserdisc format as opposed to, say, VHS. But yeah, what else is there to really say? It's Pulp Fiction. It's a classic. I mean, I don't know. Can anyone say something new about Pulp Fiction in the comments? Please do. Anyways. And the last of these ones that aren't in the box proper is 2001, The Space Odyssey. Yeah, this is a pretty old one. One of the older ones I have. In fact, I believe a lot of the MGM ones that I own are pretty old. Another gatefold with some stills and a shot of the... can't tell if that's a space station from the movie. I forget what that is. It's been a long time since I've seen 2001. But again, definitely fitting that description of a big format for a big movie. Because, I mean, this is a pretty epic movie. It's like, goddamn, how long is this movie again? Fuck. Damn, I can't even... You know how long 2001 is. You've probably seen it if you're watching this. But yeah, my point is, this is an epic movie made for a big format. And while 2001 isn't my favorite Kubrick movie, it's not even really one of my favorite movies. I like it, but it's hard to really say exactly for me, really. I'm just happy to own it because I bought it, again, cheap from Goodwill. In fact, the Laserdisc player that I have off screen right here, in fact, we'll just show you that right now, also came from Goodwill. That was about $15 for, like, a player that would usually go for, like, what, a couple hundred now on the internet? I was happy to find that. Anyways. Now we get to the box proper. Batman Returns, which I showed off in my video last time. Please watch. I own the first 3 Batman movies on Laserdisc, and I'll show them to you. But I do not have Batman and Robin, even though I kind of want it mainly for completionist reasons. But yeah, it's Batman Returns on Laserdisc. Double discs. Bought this at like a sort of secondhand vinyl shop. It was definitely cool to find there. I found it for like $7, I believe. Not really much interesting to say about how I bought this, but was definitely cool to find. No. Anyways, oh, I should probably just put that back in the box. From Dusk Till Dawn, which I also showed off in my video on God, which one was it again? Fuck. Oh yeah, my video of Demon Knight. Yeah, another pretty standard release. But one of my favorite movies, easily my favorite Robert Rodriguez movie, and one of my favorite Tarantino movies by extension, considering he wrote the thing and was also co-star. This definitely combines pretty much... Hold on, gotta take a drink here. This movie pretty much combines everything I love about both directors. Yeah. You know, you got the whip-crack, smart dialogue of a Tarantino movie alongside the over-the-top action and gore of a Robert Rodriguez movie. Yeah. Love this movie. And also just favorite vampire movie. Probably. Sometimes it's this or sometimes it's Blade. Moving on. We got another one I showed you, Blade. Yeah, I pretty much went over this in the Blade video, so go watch that, please. It needs more views. Alright, something I haven't shown. Return of the Jedi. I believe this is the only Star Wars movie I still own on Laserdisc. I had a couple of the others on Laserdisc, but I sold those a long time ago. And no, I'm not sure if it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It was this galaxy. Anyways. But yeah, this was cool to find for like $14. The Star Wars movies on Laserdisc still go for decent amount of prices, but they can be expensive. And that's probably due to, you know, them not releasing the original cuts of the movie, and a lot of people not wanting to just drag out their old VHS players. Regardless, this movie, again, another one made for the format very well, and is honestly probably my favorite of the original trilogy. I know how some people may feel about that, considering people hate the Ewoks for reasons. But damn, what was I gonna say? Crap. Yeah, anyways. But yeah, found this at half-price books for like $14. And I love how sleek this looks. Look how shiny that is. Anyways. Moving on. Because I am running out of things to say. And I have a lot more to go. Alright. We got the first Batman movie right here on vinyl. Laserdisc. Although it ironically does look like a vinyl version of the Prince soundtrack. Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, huge Batman fan. And I'm happy to own it on Laserdisc because it's one of the few that I can actually watch it in like a letterbox format. And I know how some people may feel about letterbox, but I like it because because those black bars across the screen just makes it look more cinematic. It makes it look like I'm watching it in a movie theater or something. It makes it look like a movie. But anyways, what am I saying? Anyways, yeah, it's Batman. Batman. I will keep doing this until people get the point. Have you gotten the point? Okay, moving on. And another Batman. Batman Forever. Now, here's a fun story about this movie. This is probably the first movie that I have any memory of ever watching, ever. I was maybe around, 2, maybe 1 when I first saw this movie. And it's definitely a movie that stuck around with me ever since. This is not only my first introduction into the character of Batman, probably not the best introduction, depending on who you are. But, you know, I have a soft spot for this movie. I don't think it's bad. I still kind of enjoy it. It's not great. I mean, nothing can forgive Tommy Lee Jones for his portrayal of Two-Face, but, you know, I don't hate this movie. I don't dislike it. And I still have fun watching it from time to time. But yeah, double disc release, standard. Not really much to say. Picture quality is decent. It's got that letterbox look that I like so much. And, yeah, it's Batman Forever. I also have this on VHS and Blu-ray. And, not much else to say there. Anyways. Let's see, what else? What else we got? I got a ton of these. Anyways. Superman. Another one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably my second favorite superhero movie. Although probably the better directed in my opinion. I love you, Tim Burton, but I feel Donner directed this just a little better than you directed Batman. Excuse me. Anyways. Yeah, Superman the movie. Another big movie made for a big format. Pretty, again, very standard release. This, as you can tell, is an older one. Honestly, like, the quality here is fine for Laserdisc, but it definitely still comes off a bit like a VHS in some places. And honestly, like, I prefer the 2001 director's cut of this movie with the extra scenes added back in. No, though not the 3-hour TV cut. But yeah, I mean, this, to me, is easily, again, still the best Superman movie. And I love Superman 2, and I even love Man of Steel. But this movie's just so timeless. It's so hard to dislike. It puts a smile on my face every time I watch it. It makes me feel like I'm 6 years old. But yeah, not much else to say there. Superman the movie. Love it. Alright. Ooh, another Rodriguez movie. Desperado. One of my favorite neo-westerns, and just one of my favorite action movies of the 90s. Now this is a single disc release, which I've shown before. And, yeah, not a very long movie, but, definitely a lot of fun to watch. And get back in there, you dust jacket. There we go. Another very sleek looking release. I believe I bought this with a jacket over it, but I don't remember what happened to it. It has a very long essay on the back right here. A lot of these Laserdiscs have long essays on the back of them. Not entirely sure what that was all about, but yeah, Desperado. Love this movie. I also love El Mariachi, and I love Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but this, I feel, is the better movie. Alright. What else? Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, which still has the Goodwill sticker on it. Bought it for 99 cents. Yeah. This is probably my favorite Monty Python movie, honestly. I like The Holy Grail, but honestly, this was probably the first one I watched, but this one is the one I still get the most laughs out of. Especially, you know, with the Every Sperm is Sacred song. And also Crimson Permanent Assurance, and among other things. Yeah, I love this movie, one of my favorite British comedies, just one of my favorite comedies in general. And, you know, I still quote this back and forth with my dad all the time. Again, a very standard release, pretty typical of, like, the home videos of it, the home video of its day. So, not really much else to say there. There's really not a whole lot to say about a lot of these Laserdiscs. I bought a lot of them in bulk on the cheap. So, a lot of them are pretty standard. So when I point something out, you'll know it's important. Anyways, I do also have Holy Grail right here, which I bought for the same price. Pretty much exactly what I said about The Meaning of Life, only I prefer The Meaning of Life. Okay, there is something to say. It's a Criterion release. Yeah, Criterion did a few Laserdisc release back in the day, and I have a few of them that I will show here. Again, another long essay on the back here. The Criterion releases all had long essays on the back, which makes more sense considering the prestige that the Criterion name has. But again, pretty comparable to other home video releases of it in its day. That's another Criterion release, and a movie that is not the greatest movie of all time, but still a classic, Citizen Kane. Again, by Criterion, with the old Criterion logo right there. Look at how fucking old that looks. I have no idea what to say, really. It's Citizen Kane. I wouldn't call it the greatest movie of all time, like like a lot of people did back in the day. It's a great movie. I love Orson Welles, but you know, I'd probably watch Touch of Evil more times than I would this. But still, it's a great film. And of course, you know, kind of standard. Criterion were better with their picture quality, but you know, again, there's really not much else to say here. It's Citizen Kane. Anyways. What else we got here? Oh, yeah. All Dogs Go to Heaven. I have no idea why I own this. This definitely ain't my favorite Don Bluth movie. But I do like All Dogs Go to Heaven. It's fine. Like Burt Reynolds. I've only really seen All Dogs Go to Heaven like once or twice in my life. I do know that it's hard to watch nowadays, knowing the Judith Barcy story. Just look it up. You will probably cry. But yeah. Another standard release. MGM. Moving on. Whew. I hope y'all appreciate what links I'm going to here. This is going to be a long one, and I had to move this heavy box from the other side of my room to here. And this thing weighs a ton. Truly, I work a lot. Anyways. Demolition Man. Action classic. Definitely one of my favorite Stallone movies. One of his best of the 90s. Which was not exactly a great decade for him. At least for me. I mean, he had this. Cliffhanger was fine. And also, Copland was a decent movie. But, like, who remembers Copland? Well, probably a lot of people remember Copland, but nobody talks about Copland anymore. Anyways. But yeah, Demolition Man. I always love these Warner Brothers releases, especially with that very 90s widescreen logo. Picture quality's decent, sound quality's decent. This is definitely one I would like to have for that surround sound feel. But I think I might do an episode on this sometime in the future. Not sure when. In fact, there's a lot of movies in here that I'll probably do an episode on sometime in the future. But for right now, we're moving on. Okay, one that I've had for a while but have not watched. 1984, the George Orwell movie, based on the George Orwell classic. I think I remember watching some of this for school once when we had to read 1984. But yeah, I'm not sure about the quality on this because I haven't watched it. I've just had it because it was cheap. So, but still, I like the book. So, you know, it's 1984. Moving on. Let's see. Ooh, here's a classic. True Romance. Easily my favorite from director Tony Scott. Definitely one of my favorite Tarantino movies. Even though he didn't direct it, he did write the thing. And it is still very much his movie, but directed by Tony Scott. So you got the dialogue of a Tarantino movie alongside the sleek-looking gloss of a Tony Scott movie. Think, you know, Top Gun, or Man on Fire, or Beverly Hills Cop 2. Anyways. Love Christian Slater in this movie. Love Patricia Arquette in this movie. Also love Gary Oldman in this movie. And Chris Walken. Yeah, there's a whole lot of people in this movie that you know. Double discs. Pretty decent quality, of course. I don't really have much to say about the quality, honestly. Most of these have, like, varying levels of quality depending on how old they are. This one being released in the 90s has fairly decent standard quality in terms of visuals and sound. But, yeah. That is one thing to note. Laserdiscs definitely... If there's one thing of note that Laserdiscs can still do as opposed to Blu-rays, is that in terms of sound quality, they were still an analog format. So the sound still sounds very big and raw and very natural. Whew. Anyways, jeez. Alright, Predator. It's Predator. It's Predator. What do you want me to say about it? One of Arnold's best movies. A kick-ass creature. Some awesome action. Easily my favorite John McTiernan movie over Die Hard. I love Die Hard. I just think it's a bit overrated in some cases. But this is my favorite John McTiernan movie. And, you know, got that special widescreen edition logo. And this definitely, again, fits the sound quality aspect I just mentioned because this sounds amazing. Again, seriously wish I had an old surround sound system. The picture quality is a bit low, a bit average. Honestly, it's kind of comparable to the VHS release in my opinion, but you know, works fine for what it is. So far I can't find any other Laserdisc versions of Predator. So, anyways. What else? Ooh, another classic. One of my all-time favorite cop movies, and another by a Scott brother, though this time it's Ridley. And no, it's probably not the one you're thinking. Black Rain. This is one of the best cop movies of the 80s, one of my favorite action flicks. And again, well, not again, I never mentioned him before. Probably my favorite movie starring Michael Douglas. Yeah, just look at that fucking poster. Oh my god, that looks amazing. Yeah, just a pretty standard 80s cop flick, but sleekly directed. In fact, this feels more like a Tony Scott movie than a Ridley Scott movie. But you wouldn't know to tell. But still, it's well shot, well filmed. The action's pretty fun. And the soundtrack is really good. You know, just a cool little 80s action movie. With an awesome gatefold in its Laserdisc. My god, look at how fucking neon drenched that is. Damn. Yeah. Definitely check this out. Find just any way to watch this movie. It's a great movie. Anyways. One of my top 10 favorite movies, probably top 5, Terminator. The first Terminator. I love T2. I really love T2. I kind of like this a little more, though. I just love how leaner and meaner this movie is. It's just very tight. It's very raw. It's very, well, it's kind of more like a horror movie. But the first Terminator has a little bit of everything for someone, and for any film fan. You know, it's got action, it's got sci-fi, it's got horror, it's got a little romance, it's got some slight black comedy, it's got drama, it's got everything. It's one of the most perfect movies ever made. Although I will say this Laserdisc is kind of in terms of quality. I believe there's a better version. There's a better version of it on Laserdisc. I just can't find it. Though this is probably one of the better ways to watch it with its original mono soundtrack. If you don't know, if you've watched the first Terminator in any capacity in the last 30 years, maybe, then you probably may know it for its stereo soundtrack, for its remastered soundtrack, which replaced all the gun sound effects with modern ones. And while not bad by any means, definitely feels out of place in some areas. And I like the original mono soundtrack of this movie. I just wish I had a better version of it on Laserdisc. It's fine for what it is, but could be better. Anyways. Alright. What else? Ooh. My favorite movie of all time, which I've already talked about before a little in my Blu-ray, Robocop. Now, this is definitely not the best version of it to get on Laserdisc. There's a Criterion release that is 2 discs and comes in its original unrated cut, let's say. But I just found this on the cheap and had to pick it up because it's Robocop. It's my favorite movie. This is one of the smartest sci-fi action flicks ever made, with some badass action and heavy gore. It's just got everything I love in movies directly in it. But yeah, this Laserdisc is just serviceable. It's not great. It's not very good. But it's Robocop. I had to get it. But I will eventually get a Criterion Laserdisc for Robocop. I have to. Another drink. Yes, I drink Smirnoff Ice. I'm a bitch. Anyways. Alright. Now here's a movie I'm not exactly crazy about, but I own it because it fits the format so well. Just an all-around Hollywood classic, Ben-Hur. I'm not religious at all, and this is a highly religious movie, but certainly this is one of the best directed religious movies. You ain't gonna find no Passion of the Christ here. This is certainly a better movie than that will ever be. But, you know, I only watched this movie once. It is a very long movie. And, I love how, I mean, it's a very classic Hollywood epic, a biblical epic. Got a nice gatefold with Charlton Heston right there. Definitely would have been fun to see back at the Cinerama back in the day. But, you know, not a movie you want to sit through for, like, more than a few times unless you really, really like this movie. I don't think it's bad, of course not. It's a Hollywood classic for a reason, but it's not a movie I revisit often. But still one I'm kind of happy to own considering the format. Anyways. What else we got here? Speaking of Passion of the Christ, we got Braveheart. Not the hugest Mel Gibson fan for obvious reasons. But of course he did a lot. But of course he's done some classic movies. I love the Mad Max movies. I love the Lethal Weapon movies. At least the first 2 or 3 maybe. And Braveheart is a classic, even if it ain't the most historically accurate. Depending on how you feel about that. This is still a very entertaining movie. Probably one of his last, honestly. Yeah. Nice gatefold there with William Wallace. Feel free to recite the speech in the comments if you want. Decent release. It's a mid-90s release, so you know, the picture quality is pretty decent. The audio quality is also pretty decent. Anyways, but I'm not entirely sure about like the Paramount releases. I just can't really say much about them. Anyways. Ooh. Another classic, Scarface. Another letterbox release there. Definitely my favorite gangster movie of all time. Definitely want to watch more so than The Godfather, and I love The Godfather, but gotta say, just find this a bit more entertaining. For obvious reasons. You know, this is a Universal release, MCA technically. Double-sided, well, double discs, I should say. No, God damn you know, picture audio quality, pretty standard. Again, this is in its original mono. I think it's mono. Is it mono? It says surround stereo, so with its original gun sound effects, let's say, which honestly sound a bit more natural to this version as opposed to any other version of Scarface that's been released in the last 20 years. But still, classic movie. Love Al Pacino. Love this movie. And you know you do too. I'm talking to you, Daniel. You know you love Scarface. Anyways. Now here's something interesting to talk about. Finally, something interesting to talk about. Another Batman release. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm on Laserdisc. Storytime class. I bought this off the internet on eBay for like, $15. And, the first side of the first disc does not fucking work. I'm not entirely sure whether or not it's because it suffers from laser rot or not. I haven't really found any actual rot, or at least anything that should be worth, you know, sorry about that. Anything that should be worth, like, you know, tampering with it or anything, but regardless, the first side does not work, which kind of sucks. But still, this is Mask of the Phantasm. This is my favorite Batman movie of all time, and just my second favorite movie in general. As much as I love Tim Burton's Batman, it will never beat the animated series, even though the animated series technically spawned from that. Regardless, I thought this was going to be this is honestly a cool way to watch this movie, if you can watch it. Because again, it's letterboxed, so it actually looks like you were watching it at a movie theater, as opposed to watching it on home video. Which most of you did. Anyways. But enough said about that. And let this be a lesson. Always be wary of laserdiscs you buy on the internet. Alright. Darkman. Sam Raimi classic. My favorite Liam Neeson movie. Now, for those of you who don't know this movie was originally supposed to be based on the comic character The Shadow. But, for whatever reason, Sam Raimi couldn't get the license, so he made his own superhero instead. But yeah. Cool little release. Pretty much standard to the other Universal releases I have, like the Scarface one. So not much else to say about that. But I love this movie, and it deserves more recognition. Especially in this day and age of superhero movies. Can't hear that dog barking in the background. Anyways. Unforgiven. Definitely one of Clint Eastwood's best movies. Probably his best movie that, in my opinion, that he directed. My favorite movie of his that he directed, easily. Just an all-around classic Western with a very gritty and dramatic feel. And in my opinion, probably the last truly great Eastwood movie. Unless you count $1 Million Baby, which I have not watched. But I'm not sure about it anyways. Standard Warner Brothers release. 2 discs. And decent picture and audio quality. Moving on. Yeah. God damn, this thing's packed in tight. A very overrated movie that I own, but not one that I find to be bad at all, honestly. Like, a lot of people hate this movie a bit too much these days, mainly due to its historical accuracy, which, it's a movie. Who cares? Titanic. Now, this is the first way I watched this movie, a few years ago. I didn't see this movie until a few years ago. And the first way I watched it was on Laserdisc, which I thought, again, big movie for a big format. And it definitely fit that. Nice Gatefold release there of Leo and Kate. Definitely not one of Cameron's best movies, but easily one of his most successful. But, you know, it certainly doesn't deserve much of the hate it gets these days for historical accuracy. I mean, the movie is a story being told by an old woman. What makes you think that the old woman is going to be accurate? Anyways. But, yeah. Classic for a reason, I guess. Moving on. Love you, Cameron, but not one of your greatest movies. Though, we will get to that eventually. Independence Day. Another movie that gets hated way too much for reasons that I find stupid. But, you know, it's just a fun movie. It's a fun summer movie. It's one of the most definitive summer movies, in my opinion. Especially of its day. Of course, another one I bought purely for the technology. And, definitely a lot of fun to watch on the format. Again, I just wish I had that surround sound system. I also wish I had some speakers. Maybe a sound bar for the TV would be great. Anyways, this is another Gatefold release. Looks great there. Nice pictures. This is THX, by the way. THX release. Now, the Return of the Jedi one was also a THX release, but if you saw this logo on your Laserdisc back in the day, you knew this was a release to get. Now, I obviously didn't have this back in the day. I bought my Laserdisc player only, like, what, 4 or 5 years ago? So, can't say about it and get in there. But, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Anyways, another Schwarzenegger classic, Total Recall. Another one by Paul Verhoeven, who I love very much. Not really much to say about this one. It's won by Image Entertainment, and they were fairly cheap. So, not exactly great in quality, but not exactly bad. This is still better than VHS. But they could have done better than this. Anyways. Oh, damn. Alright. Another big classic epic. Apocalypse Now. Probably the greatest movie made about the Vietnam War. But, I'm not the biggest war movie fan because a lot of them are long and a lot of them are pretty much about the same thing. But regardless, I mean, this is still Apocalypse Now. I like Coppola's work, of course. And as you can see, it's another Gatefold with whatever the hell that is and some stills. Yeah, it's Apocalypse Now. This is definitely a movie made for the format. Again, the picture quality and the audio quality is great. It's Apocalypse Now. I can't really say much about anything else than that. It's definitely one of the greatest movies ever made for a reason. But we have more movies to talk about. Anyways. Alright. I got 2 Bogart movies right here. We're talking about the first one. The Big Sleep. My favorite Bogart movie and one of my favorite film noirs of the 1940s. Yeah, this is not a very good release. It's CBS Fox. And, you know, pretty cheap, pretty standard. But it's a great movie. It's a classic for a reason. Now, on the other hand, this one is a great release. Format-wise, I mean. Casablanca. Now, one of the greatest movies of all time. So, of course, it's a Criterion release. Honestly, I wish Criterion would release this movie again on, say, Blu-ray or something. But, I don't know, there's probably something with Warner's that won't allow that, but regardless, it's Casablanca, one of the greatest romance movies ever made. Just an all-time classic for a reason. I can't really say or add much to that. Anyways. Alright. We're finally almost done here. There's a few more, but you know, we can skim through these. LA Confidential. Love this movie. One of the best crime movies in the 90s. Too bad it's got Kevin Spacey. Fuck you, Kevin Spacey. But yeah, this... I really don't know what else to say about LA Confidential. I've seen it, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't really say much about it. But I do... Damn, can't really talk. One thing I really love about this movie is the action scenes. The shootouts in this movie are really well filmed. And definitely has that classic noir feel, but for the 90s. Yeah, this is a typical Warner's release. It's pretty decent in quality. It's one of the later releases. So, yeah. Not much else to really say there. Oh my god, I've been saying that a lot this video. I'm not a very creative speaker. Here's another Criterion release. And Mom, if you're watching this video, it's The Princess Bride, your favorite movie. Yeah, it's Princess Bride. There is a better Criterion Laserdisc of this, I believe, with a much more interesting, much better cover than this, but still, it's cool to have it on a Criterion Laserdisc. So of course the standards are pretty good here. It's got great audio and picture. And it's The Princess Bride. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it every year since I was maybe 6. And it's one that I often quote with my mom all the time whenever it comes on TV. So yeah, love you, Mom. Anyways. Damn. Not too many of these things. I need another box. Alright. Star Trek First Contact. Probably my favorite Star Trek movie, featuring my second favorite captain, because there is no Deep Space Nine movie. Another THX release there, so of course it's really good. I love Wrath of Khan, but I definitely think that this movie is just a little better. Probably because I love The Next Generation more than the original series. But I do love the original series. And of course, this is probably the only good movie featuring the Next Generation cast. Star Trek Generations was fine, but messy. Star Trek Insurrection was terrible. And Star Trek Nemesis was... Okay, Star Trek Nemesis was fine. It was probably just fine. It's been years since I've seen that movie, though. But of course, I mean, this is a classic for a reason. I love this movie. Anyways. Alright. Got another James Cameron movie for you. True Lies. In probably the best way to watch this movie officially, because I own a Blu-ray of it. It's not officially released. It's a bootleg. But still. Widescreen edition there. Looks great. Actually, the pan and scan version of this probably looks a little better, but the widescreen version still looks great, and the sound quality is, of course, excellent for a big action movie like this. With a gatefold, too. Check that out. Yeah. Basically imagine Schwarzenegger playing Bond. And imagine also crossing it with a romantic comedy, then you got this movie. Yeah, I love True Lies. Classic. Probably not... I wouldn't say... Maybe it's one of Cameron's best. It's definitely one of his most simple, but it's still a lot of fun. And just one of the greatest action movies of the 90s. It's classic. Absolutely. Alright, next up. Wayne's World. I have no idea why I have this on Laserdisc. But still, I'm happy that I do. Because I love Wayne's World. And, yeah, it's Wayne's World. It's classic comedy. Release is fine, again, but it's Wayne's World. Party on, dude. I don't know. Anyways. Get in there. Alright. Alright, we're coming to some real good shit. Back to Mel Gibson. The Road Warrior. Bought this for like $8 at a half price back in my old hometown. But, I often flip-flop between this and Fury Road as for my favorite Mad Max movie. I love Fury Road, but I kind of just like how Max is actually more of a part of this movie's story as opposed to Fury Road's, where he just felt more like a side character. But, still, this is a classic to watch. Just still a lot of a fun movie to watch. Sorry. But, kind of a typical Warner's release at the time. This is one of their earlier releases in the 90s. So it's quality is not great, but still decent. Still better than Beta or VHS of that era. Alright. Now probably the first movie I got, one of the first movies I got for the format, purely because this is a movie that belongs on this format. T2. I have 2 different versions of this movie, and you will see the other one. But, yeah, it's T2. One of the greatest movies of all time. One of the greatest action flicks of all time. I still kind of prefer the 80s movie, though, of course, I really love this movie. Got a gatefold there. Yeah. I actually did see this movie in theaters. Of course, not when it came out, because I wasn't alive. But this is the theatrical cut of the movie. The other one I own is the extended cut. And I saw this when they re-released it in theaters a few years ago for the 30th anniversary. Was it 30th? No, it wasn't an anniversary. It was because it got remastered, I believe. So yeah. Nothing really more to say there. It's T2. And this is definitely a movie made for this format. It's great. Alright, next up, another big blockbuster, but not necessarily not really an action movie. Forrest Gump. Another one I found cheap. I still like this movie. It is kind of very typical Oscar bait. Of course, it's a classic. But it's always struck me as like one of the most typical Oscar bait flicks movie ever made. Still, it's hard to hate this movie. It's really hard to hate this movie. I mean, it's hard to hate Tom Hanks in any movie. So. But yeah, Pioneer put this out. Now, Pioneer were one of the developers of Laserdisc as a format in general. So, the quality is again, pretty decent. Another gatefold there with the scene at the Lincoln Memorial, was it? In the Capitol, let's say. But yeah, I was definitely happy to find this because, I mean, despite not being an action movie, this is a movie made for this format. It just feels like one, you know? Anyways. Alright, we're finally really coming up on the home stretch. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 movies, 7, 8 movies, I forget how, I'm not counting. The Killer. Probably my favorite John Woo movie. Actually, it is my favorite John Woo movie. Another Criterion release, so it's really good. Yeah. If you don't know John Woo, I honestly don't know how you don't know John Woo how you don't know John Woo at this point. But John Woo is one of the greatest action directors alive, who ever lived, let's say. And developed the famous, let's call it gun fu kind of action style of holding two guns and diving through the air in slow motion, alongside slow motion doves and explosions and whatnot. Now, traditionally, it's called heroic bloodshed, but I feel gun fu fits it more. But yeah, this is a great movie. It's a bit melodramatic, as are a lot of other John Woo movies, but that's just kind of fitting for most Asian cinema, honestly. Still, check this movie out. It's excellent. It also feels very proto-John Wick in a lot of ways. Alright. Now, even though I threw some shade, well, not really some shade, even though I called it a little overrated, I still have Die Hard on Laserdisc, and I still love this movie, regardless. This is a great release, too. One of the better Fox releases. Widescreen, big sound, really good picture, gatefold. Honestly, I probably should have pulled this out to watch during Christmas, but I didn't. I felt it was too obvious. Regardless, I still love Die Hard. It is one of the greatest action movies ever made, and just one of the greatest movies of the 80s. Alright. Another Disney classic, and one of his best. Fantasia. Now, this movie isn't really necessarily for the picture, but this is more for the sound, honestly. I mean, it's a bunch of animation set to classical music, so the sound is really good, and again, this still looks really beautiful on screen. There's really not much else to say about Fantasia. I believe I found this at a Goodwill in my old hometown, which is weird because that old Goodwill didn't really sell Laserdiscs, but still. Yeah, the final release of this original masterpiece. Yeah, it would not be. Anyways. Alright. Final few movies. I swear. Alright. Excalibur. Always loved this movie. One of my favorite sword and sorcery movies, especially of the 80s. Probably my favorite John Boorman movie. And I haven't really seen many of John Boorman movies, but definitely don't watch The Exorcist 2. That movie sucks. Still, this is one of the best movies about Arthurian lore. It's a bit trippy in some places, but still very, very classic kind of movie to watch. Again, another typical early Laserdisc release for Warner's. But, still decent quality for what it is. Sorry. Anyways, it's been a while since I've seen this Excalibur. I need to watch it again. Alright. Ooh, another interesting movie to talk about. Masters of the Universe. Oh god, do I love this movie. Yeah, I know this ain't a good movie by a lot of definitions, but I mean, it's Dolph Lundgren as He-Man and Frank Langella as Skeletor. It's just absolutely fun to watch. It's very much, every time I put on this movie, it often reminds me of the Flash Gordon movie in a lot of ways. This movie is kind of enjoyable in that same regard. It's just good, campy fun, which was pretty much indicative of the original 80s show. But, yeah, still. Also, classic Canon Films release. Love ya, Canon. But yeah. Not really much else to say. Again, it's another early Warner's release. but still, glad I own this. Alright. Got 4 more movies to talk about. And we start off with probably my second favorite Western. Maybe it's my favorite. I often flip-flop. The Wild Bunch. A big Western epic of the 60s with some of the most controversial violence of its day. And just absolutely well-filmed action scenes. Of course, I love director Sam Peckinpah. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, though. I honestly want to watch it again. Because it's kind of fading from memory, despite me loving it so much. But yeah, it's The Wild Bunch. Star-studded cast. Read the cast here, because I'm not going to read it off myself. But yeah. I have this on Blu-ray too, and it's much better there. But this is still a pretty decent release for its time. So, yeah. Alright. Now we have probably my favorite Bruce Willis movie, The Last Boy Scout. Oh god, this movie. This movie pretty much just has it all for like the classic, early 90s action movie. It's got, it just feels like the best of the best came together to make this. It's written by Shane Black. It's directed by Tony Scott. It's produced by Joel Silver. Oh god, how many people were involved with this? Music by Michael Kamen. Edited by Mark Goldblatt, who is one of the best editors of all time. And oh god damn. Yeah, of course, it's starring Bruce Willis. Also Damon Wayans, that is honestly one of his funnier movies. Just a well done buddy cop flick. Even though they're technically not cops. But yeah. Slickly directed. The action scenes are a lot of fun. This is a pretty standard early release for Warner's. Early 90s, I should say. I really need to say that more. Early 90s release for Warner's. But, yeah. Last Boy Scout. Love it. Go watch it if you haven't. Alright. On the home stretch. Oh, and I don't have that other... Oh, and I totally forgot. I don't have that other T2 release. Never mind. The Rock. Easily Michael Bay's best movie for a lot of reasons. That are 2 numbers to go into. But yes. The Rock. I love this movie. I'm not a Michael Bay fan, of course. I don't hate the man as much as I used to growing up. But, I do love his first 2 movies a lot. I love this and Bad Boys 1. But this is easily his best movie. It's basically Die Hard on an island, but starring Nick Cage and Sean Connery and Ed Harris. And also with some parts that were apparently script doctored by Quentin Tarantino. This is also easily Michael Bay's action done at its best. It's still a bit shaky cam, but I think because of a lot of other elements that go into it, the cast alongside the writing of the movie really help elevate this above most of his other movies. Especially movies like, especially with anything like from Armageddon onwards. Anyways. But yeah, THX release. This is definitely perfect for like a classic 90s action movie. Big movie, big sound. Yeah, it's The Rock. Yeah. And we finally come to the final movie on here. The final movie of this collection, Blade Runner. This is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. One of the greatest sci-fi flicks ever made. I can't really say more about Blade Runner. It's, I mean, if you're watching me, then you've already seen Blade Runner. You know how great it is. I guess the most I can say right now is I've been meaning to watch that new anime that's on Adult Swim, but I just haven't yet. Yeah, the director's cut of this movie. There is a Criterion release. There's a couple Criterion releases of Blade Runner, I believe. Or no, there's there's just one that's of the original theatrical cut. But I don't have that, and what I have here is the director's cut, which is honestly the better cut as opposed to the theatrical cut, which I don't hate, but this is how I prefer to watch this movie. I mean, I prefer to watch the Blu-ray, but the cut, I mean. Though I do like watching this Laserdisc. Yeah. Pretty cool Warner's release. Picture quality, not up to today's standards, but not bad for what it is. And the sound is pretty good. And we are finally at the end here. Alright. That was a lot. Especially, I mean, it wasn't as much as the other two videos on the shelves and whatnot. And this definitely won't be the most. But we'll get to that eventually. But yeah. Stay tuned for a new video coming soon. I will be working on that as soon as I can. And, good night, everyone.